After 3 long years, he groveled for love, but it's too late. Shocking divorce revelation. For 3 long years, Lucas poured his heart out, begging for forgiveness, pleading for a second chance. But the fateful day had come, the day Holly finally penned her name on the divorce papers. The ink was barely dry when she dropped the bombshell, shaking up everything in their quiet suburban neighborhood. It was the kind of news that rippled through the community like a sinister gust of wind, chilling the bones of anyone who heard it. "No way," murmured Jenna, her eyes wide as saucers, clutching her coffee cup like a lifeline. Sitting in his living room, a few scattered boxes marking the grim transition of his life, Lucas sat frozen. His mind raced back to the summer nights, when laughter echoed off the walls and promises danced in the air. He could almost hear Holly's laughter. Was it still there, or just a ghost in the corners of his heart? The mail lay untouched on the table, but he could feel the weight of it like a ticking time bomb. A red envelope stood out, menacing and bold, as if it was daring him to open it. A chill ran down his spine. What had he missed? As he stared at those divorce papers, dread creeped into his veins. His heart raced. The ache was real, tightening his chest until he could barely breathe. Why hadn't he seen the signs? A pebble dropped into the pond of his thoughts, creating ripples that spread wide. He was drowning in regret. Would he ever get the chance to make things right? Holly's face flashed in his mind, dark hair bright against golden light, her smile now a distant memory, replaced by cold indifference, and then it hit him. Lucas remembered the whispers he had brushed off, secretive glances exchanged between Holly and that charming neighbor, Ryan. The way she'd flinch at his name, her eyes clouding over. He had always dismissed it as paranoia, but those gentle reminders were growing louder in his head, shouting for attention. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. This was more than just a divorce. It was a revelation, a raw wound that pulsed through him, igniting his fight-or-flight instincts. Lucas stood up, hands trembling at his sides, heart hammering like a drum in his ears. What if he could still turn this around? Time was slipping away, and he had a haunting feeling that if he didn't act soon, he'd lose Holly forever. A single thought screamed in his mind. What didn't he know? What dark secrets lingered behind that red envelope? As shadows danced on the walls, whispers of betrayal filled the air, whispering that the real story was only beginning. Lucas's heart raced as he approached the red envelope. It sat there, ominous and tantalizing, as if it contained answers to questions he was terrified to ask. What did Holly want him to discover? He hesitated for a moment, his fingers hovering just above the envelope's edge. Finally, he mustered the courage to rip it open. The sound echoed in the silence, and with each tearing motion, it felt like he was peeling away the layers of his own heart. Inside, there was a single sheet of paper, tightly folded. His hands shook as he unfolded it, each crease releasing a rush of anxiety. He squinted at the neat handwriting, a cold sweat breaking out on his brow. It detailed a series of appointments and conversations Holly had had with a therapist over the last year, documenting every pain and every glance he thought was forgotten. His throat tightened, a lump forming as he read through the lines. As he pieced it together, the truth was on the tip of his tongue like a bitter aftertaste. She hadn't just been unhappy, Holly had been hurting. The scent of coffee wafted through his living room from the half-drunk cup on the coffee table, sharp yet comforting. It felt like a cruel joke now, how they used to enjoy those moments together. Lucas's breath quickened as he thought about Ryan and how he could have stepped in when she needed someone most. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, jolting him back to the present. He glanced down at the screen, a text from Jenna. "Did you hear about Holly and Ryan? They're close, really close." His stomach dropped. The truth slashed through him like a knife. How long had she been holding on to these secrets? The anger boiled up inside him, hot and vicious. He was losing her to another man, but that wasn't the only betrayal. If he had been so blind to her pain, what did that make him? Had he suffocated her love with his need for forgiveness? Distorted memories flooded back every time he hadn't been there, every promise he had broken, every time he thought his love alone would be enough to bridge the divide between them. He slammed his fists into the coffee table, feeling a surge of desperation wash over him. There had to be a way to win her back. Lucas snatched his jacket and headed out the door, determination flowing through his veins. He would find Holly, confront her, and lay everything bare. It was time to prove he could change, to show her that their love was worth fighting for. He felt alive, the hope pushing him forward like a jolt of electricity. The neighborhood felt different, charged in a way he had never recognized before. He couldn't shake the feeling that Holly might have already moved on, that she might be with Ryan right now. He knew he had to catch her before she slipped through his fingers completely. Approaching her favorite cafe, he saw her animated voice lift above the clattering cups and chatter, and his heart weighed heavily as he pushed the door open. But what he stumbled upon left him breathless. Holly was there, but not alone. Ryan sat across from her, leaning in close. The intimacy between them was undeniable, and as Lucas's heart shattered, he caught Holly's gaze. Confusion flitted across her face, and for a moment, time stopped, then her expression shifted to one of shock. The air crackled between them, tension palpable. Did she really think he would just walk away now? In that moment, Lucas knew he was at a crossroads. Would he confront them now? Or was he about to unleash a storm that could destroy everything? With a rush of adrenaline and fear, Lucas took a deep breath, ready to leap into the unknown. The moment had come. His heart thundered in his chest as he took a step forward, the scent of coffee and desperation wrapping around him. Each footfall felt like a countdown to disaster, the cafe's warm lights flickering, almost mocking him. Holly's eyes widened, her hand frozen midair, a delicate latte spoon dangling between her fingers. Ryan's head whipped around, his smile faltering as he sized up the tension. Lucas felt exposed, like an actor who had stepped onto the stage without warning, without a script. "What are you doing here?" Holly's voice trembled, barely above a whisper. It was laced with a confusion that pierced him deeper than any knife. I came to find you," Lucas managed, his voice barely audible over the low hum of chatter. He wanted to reach for her, to pull her away from Ryan's grasp, but the weight of uncertainty held him back. Ryan stood, his demeanor shifting from charming to confrontational. "I think it's best you leave, man." There was no mistaking the cue behind his words, protective and possessive all at once. Lucas felt the heat rise in his chest, anger flashing like a dangerous storm brewing on the horizon. "Stay out of this, Ryan." He shot back, fists clenched at his sides. The cafe seemed to still, eyes turning toward the escalating scene. Was this how love ended? In a public spectacle where hearts bared themselves, raw and trembling? Holly was torn. Lucas could see the battle raging beneath her surface. "Please, just don't," she pleaded, her gaze shifting between them, searching for a lifeline. "It's complicated." "Complicated?" Lucas echoed, disbelief flooding his mind. "You think this is complicated?" He thrust his hand toward Ryan, whose smirk only deepened. "I showed you my pain, Holly. I did everything wrong. But now—" "Lucas, stop." Her voice pierced his thoughts, a sharp, desperate command, one that sent a ripple of silence through the cafe. He paused, the weight of her words sinking in. "You've been hurting," he said quietly, the fight in him slowly draining. "I know that now. I read the notes. But I want to change. I want to be better for you. You can't just—" She looked exasperated, every syllable dripping with emotion. "You don't understand what we've been through, what I've been through." Tears shimmered in her eyes, creating a fragile barrier that felt like a million miles away. "But we had something worth fighting for." Lucas pressed, desperation clawing at him. "I know I messed up, but I'm here now. We can make this work." Ryan stepped closer, asserting his presence. "Holly doesn't owe you another chance, Lucas. Not after everything." His tone dripped with an edge that made Lucas's skin crawl, Lucas's world toppled. Could he really be losing her? She had been everything to him. He took a deep breath, determined to fight for her. Holly, I need you to tell me what you want. Right now, in this moment. The weight of her decision hung in the air, heavy and agonizing. Lucas felt the blood rush to his ears, the cafe's noises blurring into white noise. Holly's lips parted, but just as her voice began to form, the door swung open. A tall figure stepped through the entrance, shaking off the cold. Lucas's attention shifted, heart sinking. It was Jenna, and in her hands was another envelope, a sinister black contrasting sharply with the red one that had spurred this chaotic spiral. Lucas, you need to see this. Jenna called out, confusion painted on her face. The sudden urgency in her tone broke the heavy atmosphere. It shifted everything. Lucas's eyes darted back to Holly, who stood frozen, uncertainty gripping her. Could this new twist finally unveil the truth? Or would it spiral them deeper into chaos? The moment hung like a fragile thread, ready to snap. What lay inside that black envelope? Jenna rushed over, clutching the black envelope like it was a bomb ready to explode. Her eyes flickered between Lucas and Holly, each caught in the tension that filled the room. It's about you, Lucas, she said, voice urgent but low, as if afraid to shatter the already fragile atmosphere. Holly's expression shifted, hurt and confusion swirling within her. About what? She asked, glancing at Lucas with a mix of fear and expectancy. Just open it, Jenna urged, thrusting it forward. The cafe's chatter faded into a distant murmur, replaced by the whirring of tension in the air. Lucas hesitated, the feel of the cold paper sending a jolt through him. Every instinct screamed at him to peel it open, yet dread clawed at his gut. What had Jenna discovered? Before he could unravel the thoughts spiraling in his head, Ryan stepped closer, his body a protective barrier. Let him read it in peace, Jenna, Ryan commanded, rolling his eyes. He seemed so sure of himself, his confidence swelling as if he could predict the outcome. But Lucas didn't see it that way. Right now, he wasn't thinking about Ryan. His focus narrowed in on Holly. Are you with me? He asked her quietly, searching her eyes for a flicker of trust or support. Her shoulders sagged, the weight of their past pressing down harder. I don't know, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. But if it's really about you, then maybe you need to know. The envelope was warm, almost pulsing, filled with secrets that could break or mend everything. With trembling fingers, Lucas tore it open to reveal several pictures and a tightly folded letter. He unfolded the letter first, his heart racing with each word. Lucas, I need you to understand the truth. The words blurred as he read, each line unraveling threads he thought were long-buried alien truths and buried realities swirling around him like a whirlwind. Lucas, what does it say? Holly asked, her voice a mirror of his own rising panic. Lucas swallowed hard, his mouth suddenly dry. It talks about a past I never knew about betrayal and things lost. His brow furrowed as he scanned the images, snapshots of faces he hadn't seen in years, none of which he ever expected to haunt him again. It's about my father. The truth hit him like a punch. Confused murmurs cascaded through the cafe as people leaned in, straining to hear. Ryan's expression hardened. What about him? You think this changes anything? Lucas ignored Ryan, his world spinning, an insatiable curiosity driving him further down this rabbit hole. My father was, he continued, fighting against the clawing doubt. He was involved in something bigger than I realized. And I think this ties all of it together. Jenna and Holly exchanged glances, their anxiety radiating through the air. You can't be serious, Jenna whispered, complicating the silence that hissed between them. While Lucas struggled to process, pain clawed through him like a wildfire. The memories flooded back, burned moments of his childhood and shadows lurking just beyond the light. Was this the sinister truth that had kept him and Holly apart? The catalyst for all those notes he had uncovered? Let us get out of here, Ryan snapped, sensing Lucas spiraling. No, I need to know. Lucas shot back, desperation flaring. He could feel the cafe's eyes drilling into him, the weight of their collective judgment pressing down like anvils. What had this letter unleashed? Could the revelations mend what had been so irreparably shattered? Or would these newfound truths only fracture their lives further? The silence swelled, raw and heavy, until Holly finally broke it. "What do you want to do now?" Lucas absorbed her question, feeling the reality around him shift. Everything depended on this moment. He clenched the letter, heart pounding. "I need to confront my history and figure out what it all means for us. Together." But would she still want to stand by him after the truth came crashing down? A storm was on the horizon, and they had yet to feel its fury. Just then, the cafe door swung open again, a new figure arriving with shadows by their side. Who else was about to step into their tangled web of secrets? The tension in the cafe thickened, the musty smell of fresh coffee mixing with the charged air around them. The little bell above the door jangled, announcing the stranger's entrance. Lucas turned, the letter still clutched tightly in his fist, as all eyes shifted in the new arrival's direction. A woman stepped inside, drenched in shadows and mystery. She was dressed all in black, a striking contrast to the beige decor surrounding her. Her eyes swept across the room, calculating, assessing. The moment they locked onto Lucas, something flickered in the depths of her gaze. Recognition? Fear? "Lucas," she said, her voice smooth yet laced with urgency, as if every word were a thread to unravel. "I've been looking for you. What do you want?" Lucas felt his stomach drop. His fists clenched involuntarily, the letter trembling against his palm. "Holly," Jenna whispered, stepping slightly back, eyes wide, as if trying to gauge this new presence. "Do I know you?" Lucas's voice cut through the heaviness, a protective edge sharpening his tone. He barely recognized the words coming from his mouth. Memories flashed through his mind, fragments that made no sense yet felt integral. "I'm someone who holds a piece of your father's story," she replied, stepping closer. The cafe buzzed around them, but in that moment, it all faded into a background hum. "You really need to hear this." Lucas shook his head, backing up instinctively, putting distance between them. His heart raced, pounding unevenly in his chest. "What do you know?" A pause hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Ryan's stance had shifted as he edged protectively beside Holly, ready to confront this woman. Lucas could see the turmoil in Holly's eyes, the same mixture of anger and worry he felt. "I know about the letter," she said, lowering her voice as though even uttering the words could summon dark forces. "And I know what your father was involved with. It wasn't just business, there were lives at stake." The carefully worded chaos of Lucas's mind spiraled. "What do you mean?" Flashes of anger surged through him, but curiosity rounded the edges. He glanced at Holly, who seemed just as entranced, her lips parted slightly, as if she were ready to speak, but couldn't find the words. "I can explain everything," the woman insisted, urgency sparking in her tone. "But not here. We're not safe." "Not safe?" Jenna echoed, her voice shaking as she glanced toward the cafe's exit. "What do you mean?" "People are watching. They don't want anyone digging too deep into what happened," the woman replied, glancing over her shoulder. A chill prickled the back of Lucas's neck. His thoughts raced, connecting threads of fear with the pieces of the letter he had yet to fully comprehend. "And you think that knowing more will help me?" "I know it's a lot to take in," she said firmly, holding his intense gaze. "But this is your chance to understand who you really are, where you came from." He could feel the shift beneath his feet. The weight of generations seemed to hang heavy in the air. The cafe now felt like a cage closing in, filled with eyes that followed their every move. Lucas glanced at Holly, her eyes pleading with him to consider all that was happening. The bond they shared trembled at the edge of a precipice. "Okay," he finally said, the word low and almost lost in the surrounding chaos. "Let us talk." The woman nodded, a flicker of hope igniting in her expression. "Follow me. We need to get out of here before it's too late." As they stepped into the night, Lucas couldn't shake the shadow of what lay behind him or what awaited them in the darkness. But before he could follow her, a crackling voice came from across the street. "You don't want to do this, Lucas." His heart plummeted. Who else was here? What other interests were watching? He turned sharply toward the street, the night suddenly feeling alive with danger. What hidden truths would they unearth in the shadows? And at what cost? Lucas's blood ran cold as he faced the source of the voice, the weight of their threat palpable in the chilly night air. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and broad-shouldered, cloaked in darkness, but the glint of familiar features broke through the murk. It was Adam, the man he had known for years, his father's close associate, now transformed into a specter of dread. Adam? Lucas's voice cracked, disbelief mixing with terror. What are you doing here? Hiding in plain sight, of course, Adam replied smugly, a sinister grin curling on his lips. You didn't really think you could just chase down family skeletons without us noticing? This is bigger than you know, kid. Holly stepped forward, her protective instincts ablaze. Back off, she shouted, the shrillness of her voice slicing through the mounting tension. Try to keep your cool, sweetheart, Adam warned, his tone dripping with mockery. This doesn't concern you. He turned to Lucas, eyes gleaming. You have no idea what you're getting into. You think you can just uncover the past? Dig into things left best forgotten? Crouched in shadows, Jenna clutched Holly's arm, her expression a mix of fear and fury. What do you mean? Are you threatening us? We're trying to protect you, Adam shot back. Your father, he had enemies. You think that letter is just a piece of paper? It's a beacon, drawing the very worst of people. Lucas's heart raced, spinning out of control. You're lying. My dad was a businessman. That's all he was. No, Adam shook his head, stepping closer, his breath hot with urgency. Your father dabbled in things that would make your skin crawl. People died, Lucas. All because of secrets he tried to bury. Lucas's hands trembled, the letter slipping from his grasp, fluttering to the ground. What do you want from me? To forget, Adam replied, almost gently. Walk away, and this will all go away. Keep your head low and pretend you never found that letter. Holly moved closer, her fears driving her toward action. We can't walk away. We deserve to know the truth. The cafe behind them stood like a silent witness, streets glowing under the flickering streetlights, illuminating the unfolding drama. Lucas felt the weight of Holly's resolve. The pull of the unknown was strong, deeper than fear, tied to a sense of rising obligation to confront his legacy. He squared his shoulders, staring defiantly at Adam. What if I choose not to? What if I go after the truth? What if a sharp crack echoed, a gunshot piercing through the night and silencing all voices? Time slowed as Lucas turned, adrenaline flooding his system. A group of shadowy figures appeared at the far end of the street, emerging from a dive behind a nearby car, weapons aimed straight at them. Panic erupted, Holly screamed. Jenna ducked behind Lucas and Adam's grin vanished, replaced with panic not for himself, but for Lucas. This isn't just a game anymore, he shouted, grasping Lucas by the shoulders. You need to get out of here. Now. The shadows shifted closer, dark figures clamoring, shouting warnings and threats. Lucas felt his mind spiral as the world around him blurred, everything he thought he knew threatening to collapse. Run! Adam yelled. But could they? Lucas glanced at Holly and Jenna, their faces pale with fear, then back at Adam, the man who had always been a rock but was now standing on quicksand. He had a choice to make, one that could redefine everything. Lucas. Holly's voice cracked through the chaos, pulling him back. We can't just leave. What do we do? With adrenaline coursing through him, he felt the answer thrumming in his veins, an awakening to the truth, perhaps at a cost too great to measure. But it was already too late. The night had ignited, and so had his resolve. Fight or flight, he muttered, torn in the suffocating grip of uncertainty, whispers of courage stirring in his heart. And then, something shattered the tension. A loud crash made them all jump. But who was behind it? What new danger lay waiting? Lucas took a breath, ready to decide. What would happen next? The sound of shattering glass sent a ripple of dread through Lucas. It felt like time held its breath, waiting for the storm that was sure to come next. For a split second, he hesitated, studying the shadows still closing in on them. He could see the silhouettes adjusting, weapons gleaming under the flickering streetlights. Then, he made a decision. "Run," he shouted, his voice rising above the chaos. In that instant, he turned on his heel, grabbing Holly's hand with Jenna scrambling to keep up. The three of them dashed down the narrow alley beside the cafe, adrenaline fueling their movements. Lucas could hear heavy footsteps behind them, an ominous chase that amplified the fear coursing through his veins. "Keep moving," he urged, glancing back only to see the figures spilling into the street. "Where do we go?" Holly panted, fear evident in her voice. Lucas's mind raced. This wasn't just about fleeing, it was about survival mixed with the desperate need to uncover the truth. "We need to find a place to hide, regroup," he muttered, glancing at the boarded-up shops lining the alley. Suddenly, a flicker of light caught his eye, the back entrance of an old bookstore. Instinct kicked in. "In there," Lucas urged, pulling them through the door just as they heard shouts echo behind them. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the scent of aged paper. The dim interior felt like a refuge, yet it was fraught with uncertainty. Lucas pressed his back against the door, heart racing, and felt Holly's hand tremble in his grip. "What do we do now?" she whispered, her voice barely breaking through the silence. "We wait. They might pass us by," he replied, trying hard to project calmness he didn't feel. Jenna stepped beside him, her breath shallow. Minutes ticked by like hours. They stood in the shadows, hearts pounding. Just then, the clatter of heavy boots echoed outside, stopping right in front of the bookstore. Lucas stiffened, holding onto the door like a life raft. "Where are they?" a voice boomed. It was deep and aggressive, sending chills down Lucas's spine. "I swear they went this way," another voice hissed, tinged with frustration. Lucas glanced at Holly, her eyes wide with fear, and at Jenna, who was holding her breath. "They couldn't stay cooped up forever. The danger wouldn't simply disappear." "We can't let them find us here," Lucas whispered, feeling the weight of their growing uncertainty. As if sensing the tension in the air, the voices outside began to grow more frantic, rummaging through the alley and trying to peer into the windows. Lucas's mind raced. Should they think of a way to fight back? The words Adam had said echoed in his thoughts. This was bigger than he ever imagined. "Lucas," Holly's soft voice brought him back. "What do you think Adam meant? Why should we run?" I think that letter means something dangerous," he replied, heart thumping like a drum. "I think it could lead us to the truth, but we have to play this smart." Just as he was speaking, a loud bang cracked through the air as the door pushed against him forcefully. It rattled, quaking with the force of their pursuers. "Get down!" Lucas shouted, pulling the girls to the ground just as a figure stumbled through the doorway, slipping inside. The dim light revealed a face etched in anger. It wasn't just any face. Lucas knew it all too well. As the figure steadied, Lucas's breath hitched. It was one of Adam's associates, those he'd seen lurking in the shadows before. "Where are they?" he demanded, scanning the room. Panic gripped Lucas as realization set in. Their fight wasn't just for survival anymore. It was for the truth, for answers buried beneath years of deception. Without thinking, Lucas turned to Holly and Jenna. "We can't get caught. We have to stick together. Whatever happens next." There was no time to finish his thought. A noise, a loud crash echoed from outside, drowning out Lucas's serious words and raising the stakes higher. But who was now stumbling into their path? What would their next move be? The figure in the doorway stepped fully into the light, revealing a man with dark, intense eyes set deep in his sunken face. Lucas recognized him as Blake, a henchman known for his ruthless tactics and merciless loyalty to Adam. Blake's gaze locked onto Lucas with a predatory gleam, and an icy chill ran down Lucas's spine. This was no longer just about hiding, it was a matter of life and death. "Where are they?" Blake repeated, voice low and dangerous, each word cracking like thunder in the stillness of the bookstore. As the heavy footsteps of Blake echoed, Lucas's mind raced. There had to be a way out. A plan. They were outnumbered, but with the right move, they could turn the tables. Holly's fingers tightened around his wrist, her breath quickening as she realized the severity of their situation. "Over there," Jenna whispered abruptly, pointing toward a dimly lit corner of the store stacked high with old books and wooden crates. "We can hide behind those." Without waiting for a response, Lucas nodded, and they hurriedly maneuvered toward the corner, the shadows swallowing them up like a thick blanket. The weight of the moment pressed heavily on Lucas's chest. The hard reality of being hunted forced him to think fast. "Stay quiet," he murmured, hoping his voice would calm their fear. Blake stepped cautiously further inside, scanning the room with a predator's vigilance, searching for any sign of the hunted. Lucas's heart thudded in his ears as he held his breath, praying that they were concealed well enough. "I know you're in here," Blake barked, voice echoing off the walls as he began to move toward their hiding spot. "You're not gonna get away this time. This is the end of the line." A sudden crash outside punctuated Blake's threat. The front door burst open, and a raucous group of voices flooded in. Lucas exchanged glances with Holly and Jenna, confusion mingling with the dread that hung in the air. The commotion outside distracted Blake, who turned abruptly to face the newcomers. "Help me find them," Blake yelled, his focus shifting to the renewed threat. "They're hiding somewhere." As Lucas's mind swirled with chaos, he realized they had a fleeting chance to slip away. He could feel the anxious energy thrumming through Holly and Jenna's bodies, their tension palpable. "Now!" Lucas hissed, a surge of adrenaline guiding his movements as they snuck out from behind the crates. They barely reached the narrow space between two towering shelves when a loud shout erupted from the front of the store, raw and astonished. "Hey! Over here!" Lucas flinched, hearing the thundering footsteps of Blake and the new voices converging toward their direction. Panic surged, igniting every sense. They had to move fast. "Where do we go?" Jenna whispered, urgency gripping her tone. But there was no time to ponder, no time for second guesses. "Out the back," Lucas said, gesturing. They made their way to the back exit just as Blake's furious voice rang behind them. "They're trying to escape." Bursting through the back door, the cool night air hit their faces like a slap, sharp and invigorating. But they couldn't slow down. The hunt was on. They darted into the labyrinthine alleys of the city, their lungs heaving as they raced away from danger. Each corner they turned felt like running from the ghosts of their choices. Were they moving toward freedom or deeper into a trap? "Do we go to Adam?" Holly asked breathlessly, her voice shaking. Lucas hesitated. Adam had always seemed their ally, but now? Was he truly on their side? Doubt gnawed at him. "I don't know, we need more information first." Suddenly, the ground shook beneath them, a violent explosion rattling through the streets, a sign that they were closer to a sinister truth. They looked at each other, fear etched on their faces. What had started as a simple quest for the truth was turning into a nightmare that threatened to swallow them whole. "What if it's too late?" Jenna murmured, her eyes darting back toward the bookstore. "Then we make it right," Lucas replied, gritting his teeth, determination surging through him. We'll find Adam and discover what's really going on, whatever it takes." But even as he spoke, a sinking feeling gripped him. What if the answers they sought weren't what they expected? As they continued to run, an unsettling thought crossed Lucas's mind. What's waiting for us when we find Adam? What truth will we uncover? The shadows deepened around them, and the air felt charged with danger. The chase was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. The city loomed ahead, its silhouette jagged against the moonlit sky. Each alleyway seemed to twist and turn, a maze that could either lead them to safety or into the jaws of something more sinister. Lucas pushed himself to run faster, adrenaline propelling him forward while doubt gnawed at his insides. It was one thing to escape Blake's clutches, but now they needed answers, ones that could come with a grave cost. "Hurry," he urged, looking back for any signs of pursuit. Blake was relentless, and he knew it wouldn't take long for the henchmen to regroup, bringing hell with him. "Which way?" Holly gasped, her breath coming in quick bursts as she clung to Jenna's arm. "Over there." Lucas pointed to a narrow passageway, barely illuminated by flickering streetlights. It offered the illusion of security, but they had no choice. They scrambled into the darkness, praying it wouldn't lead them deeper into trouble. As they ducked into the alley, the sounds of the city began to fade, replaced by an eerie silence that felt oppressive. The distant sirens and shouting began to feel like echoes of a nightmare. Lucas's heart pounded as he listened for any signs of Blake or other lurking dangers. They were running blind now. What do we do when we find Adam? Jenna asked, her voice trembling. She looked at Lucas with wide, worried eyes, searching for a beacon of hope. We confront him, Lucas replied, even though uncertainty lingered in his chest like a weight. The thought of facing the man they thought was a friend felt daunting. Would he help them now? Or was he part of something far worse? As they pushed deeper into the shadowed alley, the oppressive silence broke not with distant voices, but with the unmistakable sound of footsteps, heavy and determined. Lucas froze, his instincts kick-starting every survival mechanism within him. Someone's coming, he whispered urgently. Panic seized their trio, and they crept further into the shadows, pressing their backs against the damp brick wall that felt cold against their skin. The footsteps grew louder and closer. They could barely breathe. Is it Blake? Jenna whimpered, her eyes darting around, searching for an escape route. Lucas strained to listen. The footsteps sounded different, too heavy and uneven to belong to Blake. He risked a glance and felt his stomach drop. A group of men approached, their silhouettes stark under the street lamp's flickering light. They wore long jackets, their faces obscured, but there was a discernible aura of threat about them. Did you hear something? One of them said in a low voice, scanning the area. No way they got through here already, another replied, their words sending a chill through Lucas. We need to fan out and check all exits. Lucas's mind raced. They had mere seconds to decide. He turned to Holly and Jenna, and his expression hardened with resolve. We have to get out. Now. They slipped further into the shadows, moving quietly as fear overtook them. The alley twisted unpredictably, much like their current predicament. Suddenly, another loud explosion echoed not far from where they stood. This time, it seemed closer and accompanied by flashes of light that lit up the night sky momentarily. What's happening? Holly asked, her voice barely above a whisper, the shaking in her tone betraying her anxiety. Everything's imploding, Lucas replied through gritted teeth. They were tangled in forces larger than themselves, threads woven into a grim tapestry of violence and betrayal. As they carefully crept back to the street side, riddled with uncertainty, an unsettling understanding settled over Lucas. This was no longer just about adversaries. Something darker was at play, something connected to Adam that could swallow them whole. What do we do if we find Adam and it's worse than we feared? Jenna asked, her brows knitted with worry. Lucas opened his mouth to respond, but a figure suddenly stepped out from the shadows before him, a woman with fierce, burning determination in her eyes. Lucas! She shouted, urgency overtaking her voice. We need to talk. It's about Adam and everything that has happened. Her words cut through the tension like a blade. As confusion and fear bombarded Lucas, the unexpected intensity of the moment struck him. Could she be the key to unraveling the truth? Would her knowledge bring them the answers they so desperately needed, or would it lead them toward an even darker fate? Before he could wrap his head around it, the night erupted into chaos around them once more, leaving Lucas with a crushing uncertainty. Would the truth save them, or would it be the last thing they ever learned? The darkness around them swirled like a tempest, filled with confusion and uncertainty. Lucas's heart raced, matching the chaos unfolding all around. As the woman stepped closer, her eyes glimmered with urgency, pulling his focus from the lurking threats. Who are you? Lucas couldn't mask the tension in his voice. This was not the time for surprises, it was a time for decisive action. He felt Holly and Jenna tense beside him, the air electric with fear. I'm Mia, the woman said, her tone steady, and I know where Adam is hiding. But we need to move now. He's in way over his head, and so are you. What does that even mean? Holly interjected, a quiver in her voice. How do you know Adam? Mia glanced over her shoulder, nervousness flickering in her eyes. She stepped in closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. I used to work with him. We were part of something big, something dangerous. She steadied herself, her gaze meeting Lucas's. And it's coming for you too. It's only a matter of time before they find out you're digging into your past. Your father's legacy is trouble, and Adam is in too deep. The words landed heavy in the already charged air. Lucas felt the weight of his father's choices pressing down on him. Everything he had discovered, the veil of secrecy he was tearing down, it tied directly to the peril he now faced. We need to get out of here. We can't trust Adam. Jenna's urgency cracked like thunder, and Lucas felt a flicker of hope rise in his chest. If he's mixed up in something dangerous, we can't risk walking into it. Listen to me, Mia said firmly, meeting each of their eyes with an intensity that demanded their full attention. I know a safe place, but you need to trust me. I can help you find answers, real answers. Her conviction ignited a spark of courage in him. We don't have a choice, Lucas said, his voice steadying. If Adam's involved with whatever shadow is chasing us, we can't stick around. We'll follow you. Mia led the way, glancing around the corner into the flickering streetlight-lit plaza, where shadows lurked like predators. Each step propelled them further into the unknown, the night whispering secrets Lucas feared he might uncover. As they hurried along back routes, avoiding the main street, Lucas turned to Holly. Are you okay? He asked, noticing her pale complexion. She nodded, but her eyes reflected the turmoil brewing inside her. I'm just scared, Lucas. What if this leads to nowhere? What if we don't find what we're looking for? We have each other, Holly. No matter what happens next, he reassured her, gripping her hand tightly. Stay close, Mia warned, leading them toward a discreet entrance to a building. In here. It's where we can talk without prying eyes. They ducked inside, the heavy door creaking as they shut it behind them. The dim beige walls of the building seemed to whisper of stories untold, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. What can you tell us? Lucas urged, desperation edging his voice as he leaned in closer to Mia. About my father, about Adam, why did he get pulled into this? I can tell you that your father wasn't just a businessman. He was involved in things that could ruin lives. Mia's voice was steady, but Lucas could see the conflict in her eyes. I was part of a network that tried to contain the fallout of his choices. But now it's all spiraling out of control. What do you mean, trying to contain it? Jenna asked, confusion knitting her brow. Your father had enemies, powerful ones. He was involved in dealings that pushed him beyond the limits of legality, and when things began to collapse, he made choices to protect himself and you. But those choices came back to haunt him, and that legacy is what you're dealing with now. Lucas felt sick. The truth, a bitter pill to swallow, clawed at him. There was a whole life he never knew about, one filled with danger and deception. And now Adam? Is he one of those enemies? No, but he is caught in the crossfire, Mia said, urgency underscoring her voice. He's on the run, trying to navigate through threats against him, from those who were closely aligned with your father's past. We need to warn him, Lucas said, an ache of responsibility heavy in his chest. We can't let him take the fall. We can't go to him directly. It would put all of us in danger, Mia replied. We need a plan. We have to gather information, find out what exactly went down. If we don't understand the full picture, we can't protect ourselves. Suddenly, the sound of a rumble echoed through the halls, a low, reverberating pulse that felt like the beating heart of a hidden danger. Lucas's instincts kicked in. He could feel the urgency in the air coiling tighter. Whatever happens next, we'll face it together, he said without looking back at Holly and Jenna. They nodded, a testament to their solidarity amid the impending storm. We have to move, now, Mia urged, propelling them forward. As they made their way into the maze of corridors, they took every turn with caution, each footfall echoing the weight of their unfolding destinies. The further they moved away from the cafe and the city chaos, the higher the tension rose within them. The world outside felt distant, haunted by truths yet to be unveiled. Lucas felt an electric pulse of resolve surging inside him. They were no longer merely surviving. They were on the brink of unveiling a truth that could shatter illusions and rewrite their lives. Then came the unsettling realization it wasn't just answers they sought, it was clarity. Purpose and a chance at redemption in the murky underbelly of legacies built on shadows. What would they find beyond these walls? Would they confront the very ghosts that tied Lucas to his past, or would they charge recklessly into the fray, swallowed whole by the chaos? In that moment, As they stepped into the deeper darkness, Lucas understood they were already entwined in a battle for their lives, and there would be no turning back. As the weight of his heritage pressed down, he swore to fight not just for himself, but for Holly, and for the truth that could bring light to the shadows looming over them all. And with that, they pressed onward, unaware that the greatest revelations were yet to come. Beckoning them into the fray, now, dear friends, it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what comes next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your engagement makes all the difference.